Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. December 29th, 2025. Look what I found. My beloved COVID mask from the old days, man. What a nostalgic memory this was. So I put it in the washing machine and thought I'd put it on again let's see how this feels. Ah, yes. I remember those days. This cat doesn't remember those wonderful days. But, yeah, this was the oh boy, I forgot how tough it was to throw. Wow, that's terrible. Yeah, you'd have to wear these in stores, man. For those of you that are too young to remember those days. But I guess I'll keep this as a keepsake of that wonderful time in world history. But anyway, I thought I'd do a quick show to talk about Stan Lee. Now, yesterday was Stan Lee's birthday. I don't remember. I think they said he would have been 101 yesterday. Well, mostly what I see online is negative stuff about Stan Lee. And if someone says, "Oh, Stan Lee was great," people say, "Well, you don't know anything, man. You're just some newbie comic collector. You don't realize what a horrible guy he was." Well, I didn't look at him as a horrible guy when I was in third grade, when I was in fourth grade, when I joined FOOM, the Friends of Old Marvel, back in third grade, or was that the beginning of fourth grade? Maybe it was the summer in between. Anyway, some of his he did make claims that he created a lot of these characters. Now, I understand how he could actually not have been lying, but actually have believed that. Now, he has an idea for a spider teenager that's like a spider type character. What's that cat getting into? And he assigns it to an artist to come up with a costume. Now, the costume is very important, but the personality of as a man, it's like doing God. It's like doing my show in Vietnam, man. I never know when these dang Viet Cong cats. Okay, well, my premise is that Jack Kirby, an amazing artist, Steve Ditko, not just incredible artist, but would they have created those particular characters if they weren't given an assignment? Now, having been given that assignment, and then they create these wonderful characters, and then they present the artwork to Stan Lee, and then Stan Lee takes what they've written to be happening in each panel and rewrites it to make it more palatable to 12-year-olds. Because Kirby, his writing was more, I don't know, when you're in elementary school and you read something that's Jack Kirby's writing, it strikes you as like being aimed at real little kids. It's not, doesn't seem too smart. And Steve Ditko's writing probably would have come across as too smart. So you've got to get the writing just right, and and then have a consistent voice. So, Oh, it's Drew the dog coming on the stairs. I didn't know who that was, man. It sounds like a human being over there. Okay, well, all these people that say, I hate Stan Lee, it's terrible. Jack Kirby did everything, Steve Ditko did everything. Without the two of them together, it wouldn't have worked. And the other artists that Stan Lee worked with, I when you read something written by Stan Lee, there's a consistent voice. Voice is when you read something and you can the personality of the writer comes through, and it's like you can hear their voice in your head. Some writers have a very distinctive voice, so it's easy to do a parody of their writing because you know how they sound. Edgar Rice Burroughs, he wanted his stories, Tarzan and John Carter, to sound like old mythology, and so he would use big words, but he had about 20 big words that he'd use over and over again, but it would make you feel like when you were a kid reading those books, you're really reading something. Man, I know what a cudgel is. I know how many a score is, because most people, it's like a score of warriors approach. It's like, wait, how much is a score? And you have to look it up. Oh, that's 20. Not everybody knows that. You probably know that because you're all very intelligent. But Stan Lee had a distinctive voice, and he brought a personality to the characters that, looking at the writing that Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko had done previously, it was not up to par with it's like when Lennon and McCartney worked together. And anyway, but people that say they hate Stan Lee, well, so then why do you even like comic books? Why do you want to buy Silver Age comics? Because that's anyway. So I don't want to hear negativity about Stan Lee. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's got their problems. Let's see. Let me move the chair a little bit over here. I am getting incredibly fat. In fact, I may be the fattest man on YouTube now. I'm going to get that checked out with the Guinness Book of World Records. See if I can't. Do they even still publish that book, man? Christmas. It's Christmas time. Well, it was Christmas time. But Christmas in 1974 is when I got this book. Santa Claus brought it to me, but I actually knew it was in my parents' closet because I saw it in advance. So maybe this is one that Santa Claus didn't bring me. The rest of the stuff was from Santa Claus. Man, gotta have my cheaters to read close up. But anyway, this was the Stan Lee book, The Origins of Marvel Comics. It was a painted John Romita cover. Yeah. This should be a first printing. I mean, it starts with 2 there. So I guess that means it's a second printing, really? Is that what that means there? I mean, this was, right off the presses, I remember. To Joan and Joni, my wondrous wife and dazzling daughter, no wonder I feel like a superhero. Okay, so what it does is it gives you that gives you the story, the origin of the Fantastic Four from the first issue of Fantastic Four. And then it gives you a more recent issue, in this case, issue 55, which was still a vintage issue in 1974. And so, damn, just look at this artwork. You know, that's what the Fantastic Four movie should have looked like. I've got this new obsession. A couple of nights ago, my wife wanted to watch this movie, and I said, oh, okay, it's a French movie. And it turned out to be like a life-changing experience. The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. Jacques Demy. I wouldn't have even been able to tell you who Jacques Demy was if you know, before that. But it's like this movie was incredible. I've always loved Hollywood movie musicals. Well, this is a French New Wave reinterpretation of the Hollywood movie musical. Beautiful colors, but every single line, there is no spoken dialogue. Everything is sung. Even if some guy, walks in, the mailman brings a letter in or something, they're gonna sing that. Hollywood movie musicals usually always have a particular way that they would end and stuff. I don't want to give anything away, but it subverts a lot of expectations, but it's a beautiful movie, beautiful colors. And that's the way this looks to me. And it's from 1964, and then last night we watched his next movie, which is from 1967, called The Young Girls of Roquefort. Les Demoiselles de Roquefort. I don't know, but it's that one's more like a traditional Hollywood movie musical where people actually talk in between the musical numbers. And Gene Kelly appears in it. He plays a role, and incredible dancing. He's a little bit older, that's about, what would that be, about almost 15 years after Singing in the Rain. And then about the same amount of time until he was in that movie Xanadu, that's a guilty pleasure. The music in that movie was great, but it's hard to argue that I don't know, it's hard to argue that it's a great movie, but if it gives you pleasure, then isn't it a great movie? I don't know what to tell you. First, the origin of the Incredible Hulk. Although they kind of cheat and make him green. Originally, he was gray throughout the whole first issue. Because they were basically doing a bootleg Frankenstein comic, because Frankenstein was hugely popular in the early 60s with all the Shock Theater, on Saturday night, syndicated, showing all the old Universal horror movies. I mean, we only know Frankenstein as being green from the movie posters that came out. But, watching the movie in the theater or on television, he appears to be gray. So does everybody in a black and white. I joke, but I probably actually have COVID right now. They probably would have diagnosed me with that back 5-6 years ago. Right before I turned on the camera, I coughed so hard, I started to hear like mechanical buzzing in my brain. It's like starting to wonder, am I really a robot? I felt like I was going to pass out. I just got this phlegm. That's too much information. Anyway, origin of the Hulk. And then, don't they have a more recent issue? Yes, of course they do. Incredible Hulk 118. Oh, I don't have that issue. In fact, I never see that cover. Do you ever see that cover? Oh, God, that's so good. It's got to be Maurice Severin art. Wow. It's just, I get depressed, you know, and then, well, that's Herb Trimpe art, or they're calling him Happy Herbie Trimpe here. Cover looked like Marie Severin. I could be wrong. What do I know? Oh, whatever. So this way they get Submariner in there too with the hook. Okay, so then the next hero in here, it's got to be Spider-Man. Come on, what's it gonna be? What an amazing amount of fun this was to be a fourth grader with this book, and getting a chance to read these. Yeah, it's Amazing Fantasy number 15. And so the origin of Spider-Man. Let's see if they have the pupils in the eye. Yeah, see, they reproduced it exactly. See this one panel, he's got pupils in his eye. And then this is the issue to show how Spider-Man looks now. It's not really good reproduction. It's a little too dark. You can barely read the writing there. Rocked by the shocker. Anyway. John Buscema, pencils with John Romita, inks. Wow. Look at that. Now, one of the really stupid moves was killing off Gwen Stacy. And Stan Lee agreed with me on that. He was no longer writing the books at that time. But they shouldn't have done it, man. They should have kept Mary Jane and Gwen like a Betty and Veronica in Spider-Man, but I don't know. And what is the other hero that's in here? Oh, Thor. So I don't know how you could just say I hate Stan Lee. Did Stan Lee do things that were horrible? Well, yeah, it's like he got suckered into some big giant Hillary Clinton boondoggle extravaganza where they were trying to raise money for Hillary Clinton, and they were going to name it the whole thing after Stan Lee, and he got involved in that, you know. And then when he got older, he thought he could create he thought he could create the characters on his own. He couldn't do that, but what he could do is take these characters that were, maybe he thought of the basic idea, and then someone else designed the character, and then they came up with the plots basically, and then he wrote the really good dialogue to go with them. And by good dialogue, I mean it reads well when you're in elementary school. So the hell am I talking about? And then a more current issue of Thor. What was I talking about? He would, I have no idea. What was I talking about? I can't rewind. Let's see. Okay. I was talking about Stan Lee. And that, maybe he didn't write everything, I said. Let me stop and think. Oh, I remember now. When he got older, they recruited him to do these things. It's like, Stan Lee, why don't you do your version of Batman? Why don't you do your version of Superman? It's like, oh, okay. And then they'd say, come up with a new character. Okay, how about Stripperella? It's like, oh, man, that's pretty lame. But you got Stan Lee's name attached to it, but oh, well. Of course, I never saw an issue of Stripperella, so I don't know. Maybe it's wonderful. Maybe it's... Okay. then there was a sequel that came out maybe a year later. Maybe this was the next Christmas this came out. Son of Origins of Marvel Comics. I don't know. Let me think. Let me look. Okay. Well, this is a first printing. Because, see, it's got the 1. So, 1975. Okay. Well, I don't remember if 1975 is a fractured year for me because the spring and fall, the spring and summer of 1975, I was in San Antonio, Texas. And then at the end of the summer, we moved to Washington State, to Tacoma, near Seattle. And so fall and winter were spent in Tacoma. So I don't remember where I was when I got this book. But anyway, X-Men #1. And at this point, I think the new X-Men had just started or was just about to be published. When did Giant Size X-Men #1 come out? I don't know, but X-Men was a comic that was always unpopular. I always thought it was great. And in the 70s and early 80s, I'd buy older issues of it, and they were somewhat affordable because the issues before Wolverine and the new cast came in and were still kind of affordable. And I enjoyed reading the X-Men. I really did. Anyway, it was just a book that never really sold that well. But Stan Lee kept publishing it. I think he thought, well, eventually people will catch on to it, I guess. And then they never even really, when it was about to be canceled, they didn't really cancel it. They just went into reruns and started rerunning old issues, reprinting old issues until 1975 when the new X-Men started, which rapidly became hugely popular. So then they have the origin of Iron Man, and then a newer issue of Iron Man. What issue is it? Tales of Suspense '97. That's an issue I actually own. Most of these, are issues that I'll never be able to afford, like Avengers #1. But boy, was this a treat to read this when I was a kid. To see all the... And that Marvel Superheroes cartoon is just like right out of the pages of this. It's so wonderful. The Grottu Orloff 1966 cartoon. Well, Friar Tuck, I did get in finally to that channel you've been trying to tell me about called Throwback Television, and they have it in the morning, vintage cartoons around 7. And when I tuned it in, they were playing that Three Stooges early 60s cartoon, and then they played the Hanna-Barbera Abbott and Costello, and then they played like a half an hour of Rocket Robin Hood, which is also Grottu Orloff. It feels very much like the Marvel Superheroes cartoons, except it's original characters. Well, Robin Hood's not really an original character, but reinterpreting him as an outer space guy, but still with arrows, and I guess that's somewhat original. So, when they brought in new characters, they would oftentimes put Spider-Man on the cover to try to get you hooked in, because Spider-Man was was doing well for them. And when a comic book was failing, like X-Men, they would have Spider-Man show up and have him prominent on the cover. They did that in X-Men. I remember a Doctor Strange cover where you could barely see Doctor Strange. It just looks like a Spider-Man comic. And even I think the Ms. Marvel had Spider-Man and Peter Parker prominent on the cover. And then on the inside page, it's like, well, if you like this, you're gonna like this, you know. If you like Spider-Man, you'll like this. Wow. Bill Everett art. And you tell me, well, I just don't like Stan Lee. I don't like his funky Flash Man personality. His whole thing, man, was to try to be cool. And he was trying to get third graders to think they were cool by buying Marvel comics. They were part of the in crowd. They were part of the, you know, the Merry Marvel Marching Society. They should face front and be proud of being Marvel collectors. And I don't know at what point it became really uncool to read comics. Because I think in the 40s and 50s, that was just something every kid did. But at some point between then and the Golden Age and the time that I was a kid in the 70s, comic book collecting became very uncool. I don't know what it was. I would think with my older brothers, they weren't nerdy. I was a lot nerdier than them. They both joined the army, and one of my brothers jumped out of airplanes. He had a parachute, not without him, but it's still, that's scary to me. I could barely ride a roller coaster, and you know. But they read comics, and comics I just thought wasn't an uncool thing for their generation, for the baby boomers. But it seems like by the time my generation came along, and I like to consider myself a baby boomer, but I missed it by a year, being born in '65. But I still think more like they do. I don't know. At some point, it became uncool to be a comic collector. Here's the more current Daredevil, but I don't see how someone could just say, I hate Stan Lee. Well, Stan Lee had to make it cool, make you feel cool to buy the comics. And he was trying to look more youthful because he was pretty much bald, and he got a toupee, and then he grew the beard, and it was all an amazing salesman's technique. I've always been fascinated by advertising. I studied advertising in college, and movie posters, and yesterday I recorded like 4 hours of radio spots, radio commercials for exploitation movies, horror movies, blaxploitation movies from the 70s and 60s, just because I like to just listen to it. To me, it's like listening to a symphony. Anyway, I have this issue, the first appearance of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Not the first appearance of Nick Fury. He'd been in a war comic in World War II, but this is him coming back 20 years later, now in his 40s, to be a Man from U.N.C.L.E., a James Bond guy. And this was spectacular. And then I guess they're going to maybe, do they... Yeah. Are they going to... It looks like they don't... Maybe they don't do a modern issue of S.H.I.E.L.D. because S.H.I.E.L.D. wasn't being published at that point in the 70s. No. Then you have The Wonder of the Watcher. Years later, I'd be surprised to find out, whoa, Watchers are in the Bible. This is taken right out of the Bible. Okay, and then he's going to do Silver Surfer. Now, when he said that he created the Silver Surfer, that is probably where, and that was his favorite creation. That may have been a little gone. He went a little too far with that, because when Stan Lee sent Jack Kirby off with the idea to do basically a godlike character shows up on Earth to drain the Earth, and so Jack Kirby comes back with this artwork with the guy with a G on his chest, which apparently would stand for God, but it was Galactus. And then Stan Lee said, "Well, who's this guy flying around on the surfboard?" He hadn't mentioned that. That was something Jack Kirby added. Now, Stan Lee, I guess, came up with the name, the Silver Surfer, and his personality, and wrote all his dialogue in there and inserted all of his philosophical ideas. So Stan Lee felt that that was a creation of his. Now, and the Suno.com that I've become fascinated with over the last few months is a website you go to, and they'll let you create a few songs free, but I'm on some plan where you pay a certain number, like, I don't know, I can't remember if it's $25 a month, and you can create an almost unlimited, although there's a limit, and I reach it every, hey, get out of there, this darn cat, hey, come on out of there, Charlotte. Anyway, you can, for instance, let's say, I think, let me see here. I want to make a song that sounds like the Shirelles, like a girl group from the 60s, singing about Enemy Ace, this comic book. Or maybe I want to make it a country western swing song from 1947, talking about Enemy Ace, or maybe about King Kong. Or I could just look around anywhere in here and just come up with an idea of, I like a song about that. And I can put in, this is what I want, is the instruments. You know, I'm doing a surf song. I want a theremin in this song, and I want a vibraphone, and I can put in the exact style of guitars I want. And I can, I want that sound. You know that song by Jimmy Gilmer and the Fireballs, Sugar Shack? I was like, what is that cool kind of organ sound in that? And so I look it up online and figure out what's some weird experimental instrument only used in a couple of songs. It's like, I want to use that in my song, and I come up with some, and I can put in all the lyrics. I can write the song myself, or I could put in several sentences about what it's about. I want it to be a girl singer. I want her to have an accent. I want her to sound like a young singer. I want it to be a vocal group. I want it to be doo-wop. I want it to be surf music. I can come up with any style. I can come up with the instruments. I can come up with the plot, with what's going to happen in the song. And then I plug it in, and then about 5 seconds later, it's got, here's your song, ready to go. And they give you two versions of the song, and you can pick which one you like, or maybe you like both of them. That's helped me realize what Stan Lee was going through, because if I create an Enemy Ace song from 1947, a country western swing song, it sounds like Bob Wills, and I listen to it over, and I think, man, that's my song. That song wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me. And it's true. Nobody of how many is it, 6 or 8 billion people on the planet Earth, nobody would have thought, maybe someone has done it, maybe, but I don't think anyone's ever plugged into Suno or had the artificial intelligence demons come up with an Enemy Ace song. So I feel proud of that, and it's a really good song, man. And those robots did a good job of interpreting what I wanted. And I feel like, man, I did that. That's my song. And sometimes they come out brilliant. Sometimes they don't. But I did a song about Vampirella, and it came out, somehow it came out sounding just like the Everly Brothers. And it's a great song, man. It's a great song. It's like one of the greatest songs I've ever heard. You know, it's like, you think of the greatest songs I've ever heard in my life, like Runaway by Del Shannon. It's like up there with that. And it's not even a real song. But I feel proud of that. It's like, that's my song. Or I did this song where it's kind of a late 50s kind of ballad. Werewolf by Night, you know, title from the Marvel comic book. And man, it came out so great. Oh, it's, and you can hear those in my latest episode from yesterday or the day before or whenever that was. So I feel like I created those. And they've got my name, Grottu Orloff, on them, you know. So I think that's how Stan Lee, you know, Stan Lee sends off, comes up with, okay, here's the plot outline of what I want to have happen in this. I want this to be the villain. And you know, and a couple of other things I want to have happen in this story. Okay, Steve, you go do this. Okay, Jack, this story, I want to have this as the villain, and I want to have the Inhumans appear again. And it's like, okay, Stanley goes on, brings the artwork back. Okay, and Jack Kirby's written the words in the margins, and then Stan Lee goes in and changes that up however he wants and adds his own writing style to it. And then he genuinely feels, as the decades pass, that was my creation. You know, but what's on all these little kids' shirts, as far as Spider-Man, it's Steve Ditko's design. I know he got it from a Halloween costume from the 50s that was on sale in 5 and dime stores that was called Spider-Man, that looked a lot like that. But I think that was yellow, but it had the spider webs in a similar way. But it's very much an equal collaboration, and it's but I don't think Stan Lee should be considered to be completely unworthy of having any credit, and it should all go to the artist, because I just don't think the characters would have succeeded. I don't think Fantastic Four would have gone beyond where Challengers of the Unknown was a somewhat popular comic in the 50s, but it's kind of forgotten now. And I don't know that Fantastic Four would be as big as it is now if it wasn't for Stan Lee. So anyway, so I love Stan Lee, and I love Jack Kirby, and I love all of those artists, man. And I love the Silver Age of comics and most of the Bronze Age. And it's just, I don't know. I don't want to get into a discussion where I'm people that are knocking Stan Lee. So it's just no real point in it. Oh, then there was another one called Bring On the Bad Guys that Stan Lee did. He did a whole series of these things. At 3 o'clock, they're going to have more of those cartoons on that channel that Friar Tuck told me about. Okay, Bring On the Bad Guys. And this, it gives you, there's Loki, Dormammu. How about that Nick Shirley, man? That was pretty impressive what he did. No, that should have already been done. But I keep hearing that Elon Musk is going to be coming back and working with Trump again. I don't know if that's true or not. I wish he would. But why did it have to fall to Nick Shirley, a YouTube guy, to do that investigative work? He with this guy that had done all this investigative work up in Minnesota, where Tim Walz is from. They found that there are hundreds and hundreds of child care centers that don't have any children ever go into them. They're just empty shells, and they keep the doors locked, and all the windows are blacked out. And some of them say, blah, blah, learning center, but learning is misspelled. It's his leering center. And then these learning centers, these child care places, these health care places get millions of dollars of taxpayer money. This apparently goes to funding God knows what, but mainly enriching people. So they went to the doors of these child care centers, and this Nick Shirley was on camera knocking. It's like, I'd like to enroll my son in this. And they say, no, we don't want that. No. And they're all run by, yeah, it's insane. But anyway, this is Marvel's greatest superhero battles. There's Stan Lee. How about that? So I need to be reading more of these books, man. I'm sick and tired of the... Well, why am I not reading more? I think now, well, see, now I've got my vision corrected for distance. I'm gonna need to get it. Come on down, small cat. My close-up vision, I've got to get some prescription glasses, probably with some clear glass at the top so I can look up, kind of like bifocals, but without a prescription on the top, is where I don't have to keep putting these on, because this is a little annoying. Right, Charlotte the cat? Okay, and then there's another book called The Superhero Women, which for some crazy reason I don't own. I have no idea why I don't own that. Get off of there, man. How dare you? This is, I remember when this came out. I was at Lone Star Comics, which was, I remember the first location of Lone Star Comics, which you know is mycomicshop.com, but it used to be my local comic store. And when this came out, that's where I bought it. It was like a big deal. They were so excited, all the older guys behind the counter. It's by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I don't know if the term graphic novel, damn it. I don't know if the term graphic novel had been coined then. This kitten is out of his mind, man. Get off there, man. How dare you? Okay, what, let me see, when did this come out? 78. First printing, yeah, I remember I got this the day it came out, I think. Copyright 78. Okay, so, Yeah, that first location of Lone Star Comics was about the size of this room, and it was my favorite location. It was something else. It it must have been it opened in the summer of '77 because right after Star Wars came out, I opened up the local paper and there was an ad about a comic book store that had opened locally, and it was an article about this guy Buddy Saunders who had been an art teacher locally, and I guess he quit doing the teaching job to open a comic store like Gene Simmons and Sting stopped being teachers and became rock stars. Well, he opened a comic store, and he'd always been a comic stealer since he was a little kid. But and then I got driven over there as that was the summer between sixth and seventh grade, and it was amazing. You'd go in. There was the magazine rack with all the magazines, Rocket Blast Comic Collector, and I need to get more issues of Rocket Blast Comic Collector. Someone was asking me in the comments whether I have issues of that, and I have few, but not enough. And he was wanting me to show him. Yeah. But anyway, had all the new comics, and then had all the old comics in boxes. Um, and then they had the underground comics, and then they had a whole wall and several racks of science fiction paperbacks. The original name of the store was Lone Star Comics and Science Fiction. It was a comic book and science fiction store, and there was nothing else in there. There was no Dungeons and Dragons didn't exist yet, or if it did, it wasn't in that store. It was just that's what it was. In the 70s, collecting was more pure. There were no Funko Pops or any of this other distraction. It was just this comic books, science fiction. And they had National Lampoons, and they were willing to sell them to a seventh grader. The employees didn't think anything of it. Well, so that's where I got a lot of my National Lampoon collection. So anyway, this is Kirby. But to me, this is a graphic novel. This was meant to exist as a book. This was not a collection of stories from different issues of a comic put together. It was meant to be this. So I don't know what to tell you. Oh, perfect, man. This is good. This is an issue of Rocket Blast Comic Collector. But I don't have it with my magazines because it's like a book. And so this is exactly what I was just asked. I think was it Robert Harrison that asked me that? I think it was. But anyway, this is a beautiful. I mean, it was a Rocket Blast Comic Collector was a fanzine that was published all through the 60s and 70s, maybe into the 80s. But by this point, they were all slick and putting it out in book form. Oh, look at that, man. Wow. Seriously, look at the city in the background. Okay. This is this is from the late 90s. I didn't really remember. And I think that's what it's saying. So, this is an early issue of Rockets. Originally it would have been mimeographed. Before photocopying, mimeographing was Wow. GB Love. And it talks about his collaboration with some of those guys from Texas. So this is a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs art here. Oh man, what is this? Interview with William Stout. Wow. Yeah, this is pretty much an all Tarzan issue, it looks like. We've got new reproduction dust jackets for the old books here. Oh, come on. This was a $10 book whenever it came out. This is a really good book, The Golden Age of Comic Fandom. This is really great. There's like stuff that Crumb was doing back in the 50s. It just shows how it just seems a lot more appealing the way that the science fiction fans and the comic book fans used to be. As opposed to the ones of today that are only into key issues, and these guys that look like, you know, they'd work at NASA, or and then Ron Haydock, who had a rockabilly band, and that's GB Love. Yeah, I wish I could have been. That's the time that it would have been fun to be a comic collector, when people really loved the books and didn't just want to slab them in plastic on their wall. Just have this longing for another time period that's long gone. This is Fandom's Finest Comics. And these are comics done by fans back in the old fanzines. So this is going to be fascinating. Now I just talked about Buddy Saunders. He's going to be in here. Here's a parody, The Bestest League of America. Yeah, the Texas Trio. Publishers of Star-Studded Comics. Okay. That's Buddy Saunders, the founder of Lone Star Comics or MyComicShop.com. I think his son or his wife runs the operation now. That's Larry Herndon. Larry Herndon had muscular dystrophy, I believe, and was in a wheelchair. But the three of them were known as the Texas Trio, and they put out Star-Studded Comics. And it was, let's see if there's going to find some. I think this I character was, that's Bill Joe White, who's the big Batman guy. Yeah, there's Star-Studded Comics. So there was another store. Okay, you have Dallas and Fort Worth, and in between is Arlington, which is where Lone Star Comics was and where MyComicShop.com now is. One day I thought it was during COVID, and my wife was going to order me some stuff from MyComicShop.com and as a birthday present, some issues of the Monster Times and stuff, and I think an issue or two of Maisie, which is like an Archie type comic, and I thought, well, I wonder how. Actually, I was wondering, the stuff went all the way up 3 states above me, and then came back, went over here and there, and then finally came back. When in reality, I could have gotten on a bike and ridden to the warehouse of Lone Star Comics, MyComicShop.com, in just a few minutes. They were right in the middle of, I always thought, well, could I order from MyComicShop.com and just go and pick it up in their lobby so they didn't have to spend money on postage? But, well, obviously not during the wonderful times of this, but that was just so there's another one. This is Fandom's Finest Comics, Volume 2. Yeah, these all originally would have been done on those mimeograph machines with the purple ink and all that, and they would have been so someone must have retained the original art, saved it. But Larry Herndon, he had a store too, but it was over a good 30-minute drive away, and it was in a town called, was that in Farmers Branch? It was over near, well, I remember when I would go to that store, I'd pass by Robert Tilton's big church, his mega church. Robert Tilton was the guy that used to speak in tongues and, and he'd pray over your request. And then they found out he'd never even looked at the prayer requests. They were being thrown in the dumpster, and that was the end of his career. He was a shyster, and but he was funny to watch. But anyway, his church was over there. Then so Larry Herndon had a store called Remember When, and it was more than just comics and science fiction like Lone Star. It had movie posters and pulps and big little books, so a lot of the stuff that the older collectors collected. But by the time I'd started going there, he had passed away, and his wife ran the store. And his wife almost looked in... she looked exactly like Aunt Bee from the Andy Griffith Show, with her white hair up in a bun. And she talked like this. And she had about 3 or 4 peppermint patty kind of women that worked for her. Um, and man, there's a lot of good stuff in that store. The problem was nothing was priced. And you would spend hours finding up treasures, and then you take it up, and oh, we have to look this up in the price guide. And then one of the peppermint patty ladies would say, because let's say it's the Monster Times, right? Which, let's say it's 1984, 85, and I'm in there, and does the Monster Times have a lot of value in 1985? To me, it did, but no, it really doesn't have a lot of value even now. But I don't think. But to me, to old people like me, it does. So I remember this lady looked through it. It's like, oh, look, there's a Star Wars. There's not Star Wars, Star Trek in here. Look, because Monster Times covered Star Trek pretty heavily. And it's like, oh, well, we need to charge more for that because it is Star Trek. Like any Star Trek person is going to be buying the Monster Times. Well, I guess I'm a Star Trek person. I like the real Star Trek from the 60s. But yeah, that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But all her new comics, when they came out on Wednesdays or Tuesdays, and whenever they came out back then, she put them on 2 spinner racks. And I guess people started complaining that spinner racks are not the best way to put out your new comics. And so she put them on sale. And I bought one for, I think, $20 or $25, and Joe Riley bought the other one. The one that Joe Riley bought, you can see on his show, The Hypnotic Eye. And the other one, I can show you right now. That used to be in Larry Herndon's store. And I understand that they're incredibly expensive now, that you really can't get them unless you're very rich. They make reproductions that you can instantly tell if you were a kid back in the 70s or 60s that they're not real. Well, let me get the light on. I hope I don't have walking pneumonia, man. But if I stop posting shows, you'll know that something took me out. This Elvira keeps falling over, man. I gotta find a new place for you, Elvira. Stay put, Elvira. Damn it. I'll tell you what, I'll move the comic rack out. So Elvira falling over will not. Anyway, this is the vintage comic rack. Do you remember that sound? I should do a show that's just me turning this for like 10 minutes, and then it would be a great ASMR thing. You don't ever want to oil that, because that's the sound that from your childhood. Yeah. So, and these paperback racks I got from another comic store that didn't need them anymore because he wasn't keeping his science fiction paperbacks anymore. So, Earlier, the sun was shining and there was snow. And I put gas in my car, and I swear I almost lost my right hand to frostbite. It was so bad. There's a little bit of frost and snow on the ground from yesterday. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you got some, oh, I've got an unboxing to do. I can't believe I haven't done this, man. One of my oldest friends sent me a package and I haven't opened it yet. I know what's in it. He's been intending to send me this for like well over a year. He went to see what I think is his favorite band currently, the Suffragettes, a Canadian girl band. They're like the Ventures in miniskirts. They're really good. He went to see them and he got me a record by them. I'm not sure if he had it autographed or not. And then, okay, what can I? Oh, the blade is downstairs. Did you steal Cleo's sock? Where did you get that sock from, man? Yeah, it got down to 9 degrees in the middle of the night, and they said it felt like -8. Oh, I've got to fix. Hold on a second, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see. This washing machine keeps getting off. Shoot. The clothes keep. I got to get a new washing machine. This is all. The clothes are all so wet when they come out. It gets off center. It's a basement floor, and I squeezed the water is going to run into this drain over here, so I'm not worried what I'm doing. Okay, I got to get my blade. Just a second. Yeah, that Remember When shop that Larry Herndon owned. That I remember I was saying he passed away and his wife took over. That was on Valwood Parkway, and it was in I didn't know it wasn't in Richardson, Farmers Branch. I don't know, some suburb of Dallas. But you go in there, I guess she was a nice lady. I don't want to speak ill of her, but you go into this place, and she'd be this lady that looked like Aunt B and sounded like Aunt B. She'd be loudly singing Broadway show tunes, like from Cats. Midnight, and you're trying to look, find old issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland, and you're listening to this. And then you suffer through the tortures of the damned to find a stash of stuff, and you take it up there, and then they've got to price it. And of course, there was a monster magazine price guide that they would use. Yeah. They would use the Overstreet guide for comics. Man. But, what can you say? She was having fun singing her Broadway show tunes. I wonder if there's a lot of people that do Suno songs about things like topics like I do. Oh shit. Sorry, the Alex Jones was using a Who song as his bumper music, and that would get me copyright claim for sure. Yesterday I had a copyright claim. I figured if I could play the Honor and Majesty Secret Service theme if it wasn't the John Barry version, if it was just some orchestra doing it on YouTube, but apparently YouTube, they can recognize a tune. So it's the copyright claim. You can take this out or you can mute it. So I just edited out that segment. And then a commercial for a movie called Black Caesar. Apparently that had a copyright claim. Why the heck would that be? I don't know. All right, I'm opening this package, which is what will happen in 2026. I think I'll do a show on New Year's Eve where we'll predict the future. We'll put in our predictions of what's going to happen in 2026 by month, then see how accurate we are at the end. If we make some real accurate predictions, then we can maybe make money with it, like Jean Dixon used to do. Remember, she somehow predicted the assassination of John F. Kennedy and used that to make a lot of money for several decades. She was never right about anything else. She just happened to get that one right. Oh man. I gave him my old Laserdisc player, Gerald, my friend, when I moved, and so he said, this still has a disc in it. And I guess I'd left a disc in the player. I still have the sleeve to it. So he said, I'll send you the disc. Ah, shit. See, I'm no good with these knives, man. He said, I'll send you the disc. It's the Addams Family. The Addams Family has since come out on DVD. The real Addams Family. I wouldn't own the movies. The 1964-66 series. So it looks like he sent me that laser disc in here, and I'm not sure. I guess I'll put it in the sleeve downstairs. I'm probably never going to have a laser disc player again. We just kind of ran out of room. When we were moving, I gave him a lot of stuff. It's like, man, I can't take this stereo console. I can't take this. I can't take that. And he had a whole He had a whole cart full of stuff that he took off. Yeah, it's a dusty laser disc for the Addams Family. Now what am I? We're gonna without a sleeve because he didn't have the sleeve. But what am I gonna do with this? Ugh.
Amazing. Let's go to break and come back and talk about Candace Owens and your analysis of what she's really doing. Because if you look at her attack, her profile, it's basically bring down Trump, bring down TPUSA. I'm all about investigating her.
Okay. Now, yes, here it is. The Suffragettes album, and it is indeed autographed. Oh, look at that, man. To Cleo and Kenneth. And it's got all four of their signatures, like in perfect positions. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the band. If you're not familiar with them, you should subscribe to them on YouTube. And they're really good. So they just did a tour with Bethlehem Shalom, who I really love, and they only hit the West Coast and part of the Midwest. So I just saw that Bethlehem Shalom is announcing she's going on tour with them again. So I guess now they're gonna hit the South and the East Coast. So. But they did some in their live shows. Bethlehem Shalom would get out and sing along with the surf band, which is primarily just an instrumental band like the Ventures or the Challengers, you know. And so it's like all of a sudden you've got a surf band with a lead singer, and I thought it was really cool. I thought she just needs to be with them all the time. They need to unite and create something even better. But yeah, look into the Suffragettes and Bethlehem Shalom. And you know, they're great. And I still like Pinup Palmer. I was knocking her the other day because her Christmas special was a little, I don't know, just, she's like these Marvel artists that they need someone to write for them. I mean, she's got personality. She can be funny, but she needs someone to write her lines for her, and then she can deliver them really well. She needs someone to guide her, like a Stan Lee. But I don't know, what can I entertain you with? Probably nothing. Oh, how about this? The Art of Ramona Fraden. Where did I put my glasses? See, this is what happens is I go off on to find that blade taupe, and I have no idea where my reading glasses are now. Well, she was, you know her from Aquaman and Metamorpho, and she was a great artist. Wow. Along with Marie Severin, another one of my favorite female artists from back then. And there weren't many of them. But there's something different about the female artist. Is it 3 o'clock yet? No. I got a lot of stuff to do today, so I don't have time for this nonsense. Ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking for my glasses. If I was a pair of reading glasses, where would I be? You know what? I can watch this video back later and I'll see where I put them. Could they be in the bathroom? They might be in the bathroom downstairs. There's my sunglasses. That's important. I lost them for over a day. Okay, best bet they're in the basement. Okay, when I was here at the when I was at the dryer, putting those clothes in the dryer, I set my glasses down. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Well, let's end this at 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 22 seconds, ladies and gentlemen. That'll be a wonderful number. And I'll see you guys probably tomorrow night. Goodbye, Mr. Bond.